Welcome to the burning of the Clavie, an ancient, unique Scottish New Year tradition like none you've ever seen from Burghead in Moray.
So it's the 11th of January, and the sun has gone down in Burghead, which means one thing and one thing only. It's time for the burning of the Clavie. Now this is a New Year celebration, one of Scotland's many unique fire festivals. But New Year? Well, why is this on January the 11th? Well, it's because when Scotland and the rest of Britain moved from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar in the middle of the 1700s, the people of Burghead refused to move their New Year celebration. So they carried on doing it the same day they always had. It's just now, it was January the 11th.
Before we get to the fiery part, let me just give you a very brief history of the town in around 60 seconds. Burghead sits on the Moray coast, 15 minutes from Elgin or about an hour east of Inverness. The Gaelic name for the town is Ambroch, and local residents refer to themselves as Brochers. It might not be obvious today, but this is actually the site of the largest Pictish fort found anywhere. Those were inhabitants of the east and north of Scotland from roughly 300 to 900 AD. You can learn more about Burghead's important early history at the Visitor Centre. The view from the top of there is worth it, even if the museum is closed like it was when I visited in January. The modern town was built in the early 1800s, sadly destroying half the Pictish fort. However, one interesting thing that was uncovered during the works is the Burghead well.
Well, the well is locked up tight, but don't worry, you go to the Bothy Bistro, pick up the key, leave your details, pick up a good coffee as well. Happy days.
Always say hello to the locals.
Nobody knows exactly when or why the Burghead well was dug. In the 1800s, we were looking for a water source to supply the new growing town. Locals said, everybody knows there's a well underground here, so the workers dug and they found it. They also widened it, deepened it, essentially destroyed it. And even then, it turned out to not be nearly enough water flowing from the spring to actually sustain a whole town, so it was just abandoned. It's very eerie. Some people thought this was a Christian baptismal font, others that it was a place of ritual sacrifice. But the fact that we are inside the old Pictish fort means it was almost definitely just the water supply for that.
It's almost time for the exciting part. Before wandering about at night in January in Scotland though, it's important to warm yourself up. That means popping into the Burghead Village Hall for some homemade soup, a cheeseburger and a coffee. I'd never even been to Burghead before, never mind to the burning of the Clavie, but it was simply a case of following the crowd to figure out where on earth I was going. People started gathering on Granary Street around 5:30. If you're ever in doubt, just follow the people with the big fancy cameras. They normally know exactly where to stand. Or, in this case, follow the guys in fireproof clothing. I ended up where the action was thickest, standing right in front of where it all kicked off. The Clavie is a specially made half barrel that's been nailed to a wooden pole filled with creosote. It's only allowed to be lit by a burning piece of peat, and as you can see, it doesn't take long. Then after stuffing it full of wooden staves and a bit more fuel, it's carried off around the streets of Burghead, followed by literally hundreds of people. This whole celebration is led by the Clavie King, and the men who help carry the burden are known as the Clavie Crew. Now that burden weighs around 100 kilograms or 220 pounds, so there's more than a few stops to readjust and maybe catch their breath.
I'm trying my best to follow the crowds, but I have absolutely no idea where we're going.
Now, I may have not known where I was going, but the Clavie does follow the same route every year, so locals knew exactly where it was going to be. Once it passes by, people scamper down back streets to cut it off before it turns a corner, meaning you get to see it pass a fair few times. Burghead isn't a big place, so you're unlikely to lose it, but if you somehow do, then just listen out for the hip hip hoorays. The route is apparently around the perimeter of the old town, and so carrying the burning Clavie was a symbolic act, cleansing Burghead from anything bad that happened over the last year. Still, burning staves are dropped off with prominent local brochures, believed to bring good luck for the year ahead.
This is an awful lot of fun. Highly recommended.
Eventually, the Clavie procession ends at Doorie Hill, and lots of people make their way there early to get a good position on the old ramparts opposite. Then it's a waiting game, keeping your eyes open for the glow that means the Clavie crew are climbing the wee hill. Once it's firmly fixed in position, more fuel is added, at first carefully, but before long the Clavie crew are literally throwing fuel on the fire. Again, and again, and again. The mass crowd are completely lit up, even the hillside catching fire. As burning staves fall to the ground, they're passed out to lucky recipients. Even from a safe distance, I could feel the heat on my face. It takes a good bit of burning and some very brave whacks from a hammer, but eventually, after almost an hour on Doorie Hill, the Clavie comes crashing down with a roar of approval. Time to get a wee bit closer now that it feels reasonably safe. Brochers gather round with gloves and rags to take home their special bit of burnt Clavie. There wasn't any left for me, unfortunately, but then I felt lucky enough just to witness the event.
The streets are eerily quiet now. Everybody's away for their, well, New Year's party, I guess. Streets are cleansed. Fire festival over.
I hope you enjoyed coming along for Burghead's burning of the Clavie. If you did, then I'd hugely appreciate it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel for lots more Scotland content like this, and share it with your friends. Now leave me a wee comment below if you've ever seen the burning of the Clavie or another of Scotland's unique fire festivals, and let me know if I'm going to see you here next January the 11th.